approval of tentative fiscal year 2020 budget, workshop meeting, and set by resolution the date, time, and place for the public hearing. I'll turn this over to that end of the meeting.
So since Kathleen's not here today, Margaret, I thought you were in charge of snacks.
Well, nobody gave me the memo.
We thought because you were late, you could.
We should have
Time to get them.
had lunch today.
Oh. Sesame sticks.
And we're asking for some board direction today as we have our notice of our 2019-2020 budget schedule, which today, June 6th, we approve a tentative budget, but it's also setting the time, date, and location for the public hearing. And that's was held last year on August 15th at 5 o'clock. And that is also our recommendation, that we go with the August 15th date, and also the church is available if we want a little bigger venue, and they suggest we get that venue. I'd rather have a smaller crowd in a bigger building versus a big crowd in a smaller building, in case we get some good attendance.
Is this for the August 1st?
Yes, well, it's for the public hearing that's required, August 15th. It's
Yeah.
typically when that's been held.
Is it, are you sure it's 3 o'clock, or do we normally do the public hearings at 5?
At 5 o'clock. Yeah. That's
So-
why this is today, to set the time for it.
Well, this memo says 3 o'clock. That's why I was asking the question, do we need to change that to 5 o'clock?
Yeah, we're right now just asking for a board motion and approval to set the date, time, and place.
In adoption of a resolution to do that.
And we have
We have
a,
revised resolution for that, which I think is in front of you. And we could change the date on that. Right now, it has 3 o'clock. You're correct. So when we get to that point, we'll make that 5 o'clock.
Also serves as a big here.
Correct, and change location.
yeah, we had it, that drafts as district offices, but if you'd like, we can change it to the church on Girl Scout.
When we get
If
to
you've
that
got
point.
it, and know we can get it.
It's available, yes.
At
I've checked.
5 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Well, why don't we do it right now?
I just say, do it right now and have the motion done.
Sure, we can do it right now.
Well, usually, because part of this is also you approve the budget for purposes of scheduling public hearings, so usually you have the presentation of the proposed budget first, adopt this resolution.
Well, you say we're doing this backwards, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. I'm kind of being polite, didn't say that.
So the maximum number that we're going to approve tonight, or this afternoon, is not in the resolution?
No, it's in the budget, which is attached as an Exhibit A.
Oh, okay,
Resolution.
okay, it's in the exhibit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then, if that's the case, we got the cart before the horse. Better have a presentation.
Well, Mr. Tony, since you brought it up, are we gonna work on version A or version B?
I think Mr. Bloom will
Version
advise.
C.
Version C.
I think the staff that's making the presentation is Mr. Bloom and Mr. Shoemaker, I believe. And Russ is in the corner, and we need to pull him out and push him back if needed.
I'll go with budget presentation first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stephen, you're doing a good job of not hiding behind your monitor thing.
I was trying to see if this is the only monitor that doesn't actually go down.
Yeah.
You know, that was a reason for that.
There's a reason. Only the chairs go down.
Yeah.
It's for your protection of gunfire.
I was
Yeah,
about to say.
Kevlar monitors.
Yeah, I should stop complaining. Okay. So I did have a couple slides to kind of walk through, just to kind of set the mood or tone of what we're going to look at. So we'll go through that, and if there's something you want me to stop, or if you want, us, the rest of the staff to kind of chime in, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll kind of just, walk through these and just let you know and kind of explain why you have a A and a B, and no C or anything like that, but we'll go through that. Obviously, today, really it's a discussion on the budget, plenty of feedback is kind of what we're looking for. As mentioned a couple minutes ago, really, today is about establishing your high water mark. You're going to establish your assessment rate that's going to be used in your mail notice. The mail notice obviously is going to be sent ahead of time for your public hearing, and that becomes, kind of sets your high water mark. You can come down, and we're going to have, more budget discussions before the public hearing, and that's kind of what we do every year, is kind of look at your, look at the assessment rate we have sent out there, and then we have discussions, whether it's on the assessment or the different funds or anything, and then we get to the public hearing, and then obviously we're going to establish a public hearing date today too. So here's just kind of a recap of the schedule, so you know what's coming up. We've got, on June 20th, we've got a date in here for a budget workshop. I'm not sure what staff will want to do for that one, but it gives us, gives us some room here. And then the 18th is scheduled for review of the general funds and the enterprise funds. And what we do every year is we kind of keep the capital projects separate, just because of, sometimes because of the dollar amounts, as well as it makes it a little bit easier to kind of break this out. But we do have some flexibility in here, and then obviously we just talked about the 15th, and it'll be at 5 p.m., not 3. Okay, so what's included? So we do have two versions. It's really just two versions of the operating portion of the budget. The rest of the budget, when I say just the operating, I'm talking, your general funds, which includes Pelican Preserve, Stony Brook, all of those, and enterprise, because it's affected by some of the changes. But it does not mean that both versions have any changes to your debt service or your capital improvement plans. Those are the same, and really we're not making any changes or even proposing anything between the two different versions. So, and I have a couple more slides on the two versions here in a minute. For your, your debt service budgets are in your package. That includes your state revolving loan, which is obviously a big piece, and we'll talk about that. I've got some assessment charts in there, both a detail and a summary charts for you to look at. Staffing plan is in there. These are a couple of your assumptions that I've used. There is a wage increase in there of 3% across the board. 2 new positions as Parks and Recs and meter specialist. I put a little bit of contingency in there for some of your insurance premiums. As we get closer to the public hearing date, and if we get some more information, we might be able to lower that. That's an opportunity that's in your budget right now, but I don't like putting nothing in there, just because, at least for your medical, dental, and vision in life, you just don't know what's going to happen. So you want to have a little bit of contingencies in there. And obviously, the capital improvement plan plans are in here as well, the enterprise being, a large piece of that. Okay, so now let's talk these versions to make sure we're kind of on the same page with this. So there's a version A and there's a version B. What I'm calling version A is kind of like your base budget. It really is a look at your budget the same way it's been done maybe the last 2 or 3 years. The same approach in terms of how things are split. There's no change in any of your assessment methodology. All that stuff we'll talk about a little bit later. None of that is in your base budget. Obviously, it's got all the budget requests from staff, got all the capital requests from staff, but nothing else has really changed. And I put a couple of these little categories in here because you'll hear, discussion on them and questions, like for Pelican Preserve, assessment allocation didn't change. The administrative expense allocation, we talked, Ed brought that up earlier, it's still right here, the 2010-70. When I say administrative expense, I'm talking legal, a lot of that, stuff, engineering. It's still the same splits that have been done in the past. No new assessment categories, no change in the way the golf courses are treated. It's really just a base budget. Here's what we've been doing last year. It allows the board to have some kind of comparison from the past, so that you don't, have any way. Without it, I felt you would have no way of knowing what we're doing moving forward, because you have so many things to moving parts. This gives you some kind of way of looking at the past and saying, okay, well, what was it going to be like last year? Well, last year we did it this way, and here's a similar approach. And this is what the numbers would look like. So version B provides alternatives. So, you know, again, it's still got the same staffing requests and capital requests, and the line items are the same, and there aren't any of the big assessment methodology changes. But when we get to the Pelican Preserve, now every EAU is treated the same. So if you got a commercial parcel or residential parcel, it's the same. And again, that mirrors exactly how Gateway does it. Total expenditures divided by total EAUs gives you a per EAU amount. So Gateway's done that way, and in version B, so is Pelican Preserve.
Steve, I take exception to that a little bit. We're not changing that. We're correcting an error in the method of years of billing. There is no rule that I can find in any minutes of this board that ever said that commercial residents or commercial users, parcels in Pelican Reserve were subject to a 40% discount.
Okay, well, again.
But I don't want that to be, I don't want to
Using
fall
the
the
word
issue
change.
that is a change.
Yeah.
It's correcting an error.
Well, and once again, we're not even sure it's correcting an error. It's part of our discussions yesterday, based upon the fact that might be maybe some rationale for that number being less for the commercial parcels because they're outside the gates. And they don't receive the benefit, arguably, and that's the argument, of various improvements that are operated and maintained behind the gates.
Don't
And that's
come
just,
from Missouri, show me.
I think, I mean, that's an analysis that was utilized in the 2003 Sun City bonds for the allocation of the debt. And I think
But
if-
we have a rule that
No, we
specifically
don't.
says 5.8 times acreage times the residential rate.
The 5.8 is the one we talked about, Gateway proper, has that allocation in there. I think that's clear.
So is his error.
And when we talk about the allocation, even though they've made it a 5.8, it becomes a discussion about what is the benefit. An example, I'll give you a real black and white example. In Pelican Marsh and Naples, there is a community called St. Croix in Ashton Woods. It's located within the boundaries of the CDD. It's up on Amati Road and Vanderbilt Beach Road. Their water management system is a standalone system. They're not connected in any of the roadway districts from Gateway. They receive no irrigation, landscaping, access control, nothing from the district. They receive 0 O&M assessments because they don't have any utilization. There's no benefit accruing. But I think that's part of what we were talking about on the conference call yesterday, is trying to go back in time and find out what the basis for that 40% deviation, I'll call it. I'm not calling it a discount per se, but there may be some historical basis for that, as well we're saying. Am I correct, Russ,
That-
Michael?
That
Steve? I
is
mean, we're still
correct.
working on that, but.
There is some basis on it, we're still working on it, and hopefully with the new methodology, we will have definite answers to what we
Yes.
do with that, and how we handle it.
There was a 2005 report. You guys weren't around here on this stuff. There was a long discussion. In fact, it was almost a year of discussion of the issue of benefits, which led to the rule that I'm not even gonna get into arguing with.
It's a budget philosophy rule.
But it said nothing about commercial, nothing. So benefits, to me, we can talk about benefits all they want, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna be a part of start divvy up a district, who gets benefits and who don't. Because then we're gonna start talking about, I haven't got any kids, what do I need a park for? Exclude me from that benefit. This is, that dog don't hunt, guys. Let's go where we have something in writing that this board accepted it, and right now, I've gone through all of that documentation. I'm not saying I'm perfect in reading it all, but I can't find one document, and Stephen, I believe your firm has told me you don't have any documents that justify why the 40% is being offered. That is neither fair nor reasonable.
Okay, so I guess the point is version B has something different than version A for that. So I think there'll be plenty more discussion on that topic, but I just want to make sure we're clear as what you're looking at, and then we can go from there. And then the next piece is.
So, hold up. Would it be helpful to you, me, and everybody in the room, if the board would decide that we're going to use version A going forward? As opposed to having if and A and B, in which at some point we're gonna have to, as they say.
Well, absolutely, the board's gonna have to
I think
make that
that's
decision.
making
What's wrong with making it now, right now?
That's-
Everything's explained.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I think it's helpful for the staff to explain why we're at the point of having the version B and what the recommendation is going to be from the
Right.
staff.
I had worked with Stephen on having a version B because we didn't know if there'd be a presentation from Russ for the methodology.
But there's
And if-
not.
And if we did not, because we turned our stuff in, about a week and a half before. So we had both versions because they have to be out for a week.
Right.
So we weren't sure at the time what there would be. Version B would cover the basis of being out for a week and having that high mark that you guys are approving. So it was in case that we would be implementing any of those changes Russ may have been presenting to the board and recommending. Version A is our standard, how it's been done in the past, with none of the changes implemented.
Madam
So-
Chairman, if you're looking for a motion, I am prepared to make a motion that we adopt version A and proceed.
Can we at least let staff finish their presentation?
As you desire.
Okay.
Continue, Steve.
This is just a quick summary of the two versions in terms of what the significant differences are. Again, for version A, it's Pelican Preserve. And I just said approximately 45%, is like 44 point something. And then version B's got them at the same rate. And then the administrative expense, you can see that there's a difference. Really the big difference is in enterprise fund. Version B gets a lot. The only exception to the administration expense, I believe there's a couple positions that in both version A and version B, I left exactly how the position itself works. Meaning if that position is 50% general fund, I left it that way in version A. But version B, is across the board 27, 14, 59. Kind of just how, kind of was recommended to us. So this is the two versions. Now let me show you what that means in dollars and cents. So this shows you what the current year, 2019, this is your per EAU amount, and you can see what it is for each version. And then the last column shows you the kind of the percentage increase. And then for Pelican Preserve, I split it up between commercial and resident. Because that's, you can see there, the big, huge change here is Pelican Preserve Commercial, by, treating them the same way as, no difference between any of the parcels. There would be going from 390 this year, version A is 417 and change, and then 900 and almost $14 in version B.
Steve, is there a reason why these numbers on the slide are different than in the handout of version A and B on the board book? For
No.
example, version B on our board book is 568.79, and version A is 562.52. That's different than A and B on here.
What page are you on?
Yeah.
Page 2 and page 2 of the two versions.
Page 2. Oh, I'm only looking at, I'm seeing it as 567.87.
Because I checked the math 10 ways from hell, and the board books are correct.
And I think the
Unless
board-
we changed a budget number or an EAU
Okay,
count.
yeah, let me try.
And I think the board book, you would find that the percentages are 53, 35, and 12.
Well, I'm looking at them now and it matches. Also understand the changes, I believe, in the budget includes any debt service for the overall percentage change.
The Pelican
Yes,
numbers
but
in the board book.
This is
but
just.
not the
yeah.
gateway.
This is just operating. I
Yeah.
wanted to pull out the debt service.
I'm
because-
just talking operating. I'm talking.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, it's
I-
560.
It's 567.87.
Yeah, okay, let me take out of here and go back to the board book, make sure.
I'm looking at page 2 of version A, and for Gateway, it's 562.52. And then you add in the debt, and you get 641.
Yeah, and the reason why it's important to have the O&M separate is, if you're going to have an increase in debt, you don't have to send a notice out.
I understand that.
But it's for the O&M pieces where you have to send.
Yeah, what I'm getting to is that page 2 of both of the versions, for Pelican, the numbers match. For Gateway,
Okay.
that's odd.
You're looking at page 2,
That's real
I'm looking
interesting.
at
Now, this
page
this
9
deal,
and 55.
page 9. It's 9 of the,
the 2
or
that I
page
came in
2,
and got,
right. Right, and it's 567.87.
Mhm.
the 2 that I came in and got copies of here are not what you have on the chart right now. What happened?
I'm not sure what copies they gave you. This is
we've had.
Yeah, that's all we've got. I'm looking at the one that Mike gave me.
Mike, what is
Version
yours?
A is 562.
matches it.
52, and version B is 568.79. I don't have anything that's got these numbers that you got on the slide right now. And this was a printout of the workbook.
Do you-
This is the
look
board-
at
this is the
page-
board
Look
book.
at page 9.
These are on the board book, that's where I got them, people.
Look at page 9 and page 55.
Well, there's only a page 9 in version A.
Right.
No, page 9 is the operating budget.
I'm looking
I
at
have,
this
yeah,
page.
I think we had an email, because I have that same email, I have that same version A, that has the 562.52. That's an earlier version by email.
Oh, I mean, that might have been the draft version, and then we made some changes.
Yeah, but I
That's
thought there
the
was
one-
only the one version that came
Yeah,
out.
but nothing got to put it to the book.
I've got the same.
Well, the board book matches
That's page 3,
everything
right?
out there.
Yeah.
Two.
Where do they only go to register? Which one's right?
The board
book is the one
correct.
that's been put out and.
So this one that you copied from me is not right?
I've only had one version, but I guess so. It's the same one I'm holding here.
Well, thank God the numbers aren't that big of a
Have
deal.
somebody copy these 2 pages to hand out.
Is that for both A and B, Margaret?
Yes.
Good.
I've got a couple notes on mine, but they won't make any difference.
I don't know how this happens.
I've got it too. Let's see here. Page 9.
What's amazing
Huh?
is that it's only the Gateway that changes. The Pelican is the same.
Mike, wait, that may have been an earlier version, Michael.
I didn't realize I got 2 of these.
This one is hers.
Begin to think I'm crazy.
Yeah. Just numbers. Roadway or
So it shows up on page 3 also.
Yeah, but I thought that was.
And never got released.
But it's not that big of a deal.
You may want to date these next
We're only
one.
talking about, what, $6? $6.40, $5.68 versus $5.67, $1.
I'm gonna take this and shred it.
I know where it's at actually.
I've got a big recycling bin in my
All my
office.
notes are on this one too, so.
Okay. I don't know if we want to wait for those copies, but
Go
We'll
ahead.
get them, but
these are the numbers that were in the board book that was out there for a week. So
Thank you for that comment.
Would you go back to presentation, maybe?
oh, sorry. Yeah.
And make it
There we go.
Town likes
So this kind of just shows you obviously what the 2 versions are. From this point forward in the slideshow, I really just kind of talk about each of the funds again, and we can kind of refer back to this when we're done. But you can see here in dollars and cents. Obviously, in version B, the general fund is going up because more cost of the administrative variety is being allocated to it from the enterprise fund. Really, that's the gist of that one. Pelican Preserve, really when you're talking about the difference, it's the difference in how you're treating commercial and residential. That's why you've got that difference. And then the other 2, you can see there's a small change in Stony Brook because in the second version, I believe there's just a little bit of cost that gets allocated to it, but it's, oh, I'm sorry, no, they're same. This is increases from a prior year.
Stephen, I have one question at this point, and that is, the Pelican Preserve commercial entities, have they been made aware of this increase?
No, that would come after this.
Okay?
You think in the last 10, 17 years, they're gonna come in and complain, tax me more? Give me
Well,
a break.
and based on either one of these versions, there will be, mail notices
Yeah.
because there's an increase, so, so there's gonna be a notice that gets sent out.
Yeah,
And it'll include, the notices usually include their total EAUs and the per EAU amount, but no, this comes to the board first before that goes out.
Stephen, it isn't a large amount, but the allocated expenses to Pelican Preserve vary between the A and B.
There's a, yes.
By about $20,000.
Yes, you're right,
Yes.
that's correct, this doesn't show that differential as well, but yes. Because, and just to kind of, explain that, because you're going from 10%.
10% to
12, 14.
12, actually, it's 12.4, or the version I saw, but I think I saw the errant one that Ed saw.
Somebody's
I
selling
thought it's always
copies of the
been
budget.
27.
You're referring to the change, the allocation of 14 and all. You might be looking at the percentage of change.
I like the term errant version.
Elusive.
Errant. Yeah. 12, good.
That is correct.
I like that. I'm gonna write that on there right now.
I'll stop here for a second. Any questions on this part, or you want me to continue going?
In the legal, level, we'd be exceeding with 134% increase?
Well,
I
that's
know
just.
where I come from, you couldn't do that.
Oh, no, no, I know what you're saying. Is there, no. There's no ceiling, I guess, is what you're saying on a year-to-year increase.
If there wasn't a requirement for a public hearing, you'd have a problem. But since you have a public hearing, you're gonna put all that
And it's
out.
obviously the legal requirement to be, everyone needs to be noticed.
Well, I think we ought to have the public hearing here so I can sit behind this thing. But people are throwing tomatoes at us.
We can hit you, Bill.
Huh?
We can hit you.
You're worried about the tomatoes coming from the gate, like they don't get 40% raise.
To explain that real quick, and it's why we aren't comfortable doing it, and we talked about it for quite a while yesterday. This 44%, we don't know where it came from, and if you look at Pelican's budget, it's comprised of a few things, mostly Bob's very expensive ponds, and then a like $1.8 million HOA agreement, which is an HOA agreement with Castle for the maintenance of.
No, it's for the Master Association.
For the Castle Master Association to take care of all the items related to CDD-owned assets inside the gate.
Right.
If you do the math, because we were trying last year to figure out where this came from, why they get this discount. If you take 40%, it's always around their budget, it's essentially pulling out that HOA agreement in the budget. And the only idea is, and when we were looking at the debt service, only goes to the O&M, more than likely there was something along those lines that they said, look, we can't even get inside your gates, all that stuff is you guys within your master association. We receive no benefit, however you determine that, and they are exempt from paying that portion. And then what more likely happened is back in that time when they were exempt from it, it just so happened it was 44% of the budget, and that 44%, maybe was switching with management companies, whatever, just somebody said, oh, they just paid 40 and just carried it on.
Are they exempted from your master HOA? They're not in your master HOA?
No.
Okay. Where does their water go?
They're what?
Their stormwater, where's it go?
Commercial?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes in, but
What's the percentage? I'm just
But they
trying
pay
to,
the
I'm trying to
waterway
walk
bud-
you
they
through
pay that
this, it's the
waterway
common
budget.
sense. What is the percentage of your budget that's water? About $850,000 out of, I'm not talking about your,
it's like 700.
master HOA.
About the exercise.
780.
I'm not sure I can tell you that.
But my point is, they are a major contributor
Right,
to
but they
that
pay that.
800,000.
They pay that.
How do they pay that if you're discounting at 40%?
That's the waterway budget. The Pelican's budget is essentially their waterway, Bob's waterway budget.
Access
and then
control.
it's- Yeah, and then this HOA agreement, and if you look at it, they essentially pay everything except the HOA agreement.
The access control is in that,
Master agreement.
That's
correct.
but Bob's budget is, the $774,000 budget for this year is not in the,
That's water management.
that's what I meant.
That's not in the agreement between the
Yes.
district and the master
That's
association.
correct.
So I think is what Mike is saying.
They pay
They
that.
pay their appropriate proportionate share of the water management
Correct.
fees.
Yes.
By having this, they pay what, 56%? What do they pay?
I think that the number was like 44.
40 is what I got.
They pay 44% of the dollar number per ERU that, like Phil's would get one ERU at say $100. They pay $44.
Right.
And Phil's $100 goes for access control, landscape maintenance, everything behind the gates, and water management.
And water management.
Their $44 goes for water management because they don't have access, the benefit of access control. Is that?
Correct.
So
I
what
believe
you,
that's
so
we-
so what you're saying is that SAVE, stormwater management, they have no benefit for the other things in Pelican Reserve.
Arguably, that's an
Yeah,
argument. And we-
and
we
That's
believe-
where I was going back,
we
is
believe that's the
what's the
argument.
dollar value?
Yeah, and again, we can't find any of this,
Well, we haven't found it yet. We believe
Yeah,
That's it.
but we've been looking, but this is the only thing that I can come up with, so it was like before we just shifted and made it even to all of them, there's a good chance that originally they may have been exempted from that.
Not exempted, but not,
Not a contributor.
well, no, the key is whether or not a special benefit accrues to the property.
Hold on, guys, you're going, we're on a slippery slope here. It's not only those commercials right there, it's right on down tree line, and you pick up those other 3 parcels. Are they getting a benefit on this? Don't think so. That's not right. They don't have a benefit either. Why aren't they being discounted?
Well, they're behind the gates.
No, they're outside the
Like
gate.
the 6 on tree line.
Those other
Are those
parcels,
commercial though, or are they?
those other 3 parcels, it's your commercial and residential.
On the west side.
Why are they being charged at the,
No, they're all getting.
they're not getting the 40%.
You're 44% over all the commercial,
All commercial.
all the commercial.
All the commercials, even the 2 that are not in that complex, but
Correct.
the other one's down.
Correct.
They're
Go
getting.
back and look.
What about the residential?
They're all being assessed at the 400 and whatever.
What about the residential acreage?
And the residential parcel as well.
They're getting the 40%?
sure about Yeah, take a look.
I'm not sure.
Russ, is
I'm
he
not
sure?
sure of that one.
Huh?
You're
I want
sure?
to check that.
Yes, sir, yeah, because they were all, the assessments on all of those when I was looking at them.
Were lower?
Was that
400,
lower?
yeah, it was the lower one,
Okay.
on all of them. When I was going through
So
the.
it's the same rationale applies to all those outside the gates.
It wasn't just, yeah.
It wasn't just one, it was all of them outside of the gate.
And to throw even more confusion in here, if you look at the agreement numbers, there's a commercial piece in the agreement numbers.
What do you mean?
In other words, there are expenses that go to the commercial people that are part of the, what do they call it, you call it the agreement number?
HOA agreement.
The HOA agreement number. There's a commercial part to that.
Well, to the extent that there is a commercial part in that, the district is paying for it, obviously they're receiving a benefit, so we need to, how large is that number, Phil?
Last year it was $212,000 out of the 1.27.
And what was it for? Is it commercial? Or is it-
It's things like the entry feature utilities for those, there's the 2 big entranceway fountains, things like that, irrigation along that area,
Just 2 huge
annuals,
ones.
tree trimming, things like that.
We're talking aeration, so that's water management, the aeration, right? Aeration part of the water management piece?
Yes.
No, yeah, that's part of the water management. We're not talking water management piece now, we're taking HOA agreement piece here.
Yeah.
This is
Like the
HOA
fountain.
agreement, there was $222,000 worth of HOA agreement or $220,000 in the HOA agreement piece.
Okay, and that's the budget of the master association.
That's the
No.
HOA
Yes,
agreement line.
that's
Okay.
part- the HOA agreement, that's the thing, yeah, right.
Okay,
But-
so what happens is the master association has a proposed budget, the district, they pay based upon the budget for district activities. The district gets a reimbursement request from the master association in Pelican Reserve. the district looks at the reimbursement request, makes sure it's for district activities and facilities only, and then reimburses the master association for that expenditure, right?
Right.
And when you say there's 212,000 in it for the commercial piece, I'm not sure I understand what that means, I guess. Michael, do you-
They're saying if you go on tree line, like from Colonial down tree line to Pelican's entrance, they have like monuments at the corner of tree line and
Yeah.
Colonial. And so I'm assuming they're referring to utilities for that, maintenance for that, irrigation in that area. They also have like palm trees, I think you guys put light. So, but I think that could be
Okay, so these are all
justified that it's.
facilities that those commercial properties at the corner of Colonial and Tree Line arguably could benefit from?
Yeah.
But I think actually the argument's the other way. They're arguing because you guys are paying in your HOA agreement that the residents are benefiting from that being out there. Because the commercial
That's correct.
properties
That's
are
correct.
not paying into the
No, I understand
HOA
what you're saying.
agreement. The residents are paying to maintain those for the look of Pelican
Because that benefits all properties behind the gate.
behind the gate. Yeah.
Since I don't live there, I'm almost at I don't give a damn. Pelican Preserve wants to bill them or not bill them. Alls I'm trying to point out is what I believe is a fallacy that has been done for years here.
Well, I guess that
At this point, you
That-
could make a decision.
I'm not gonna lose any skin over that.
At this point, that's why we weren't comfortable with, like in version B, shifting that evenly to commercial, because when we were talking yesterday, there could be more to it, why they were originally not paying them.
Until we can validate.
Bet if you have a public hearing and talk about it, and there is something, bet somebody brings it out.
Madam Chairman, I move that we proceed with using version A in our budget deliberations as we proceed. Just sit down. Version, you don't live in Pelican Preserve.
You're talking about the whole budget, not just Pelican.
Just a minute. With version A, but for fiscal 2020, and I further recommend that some of these conversations that we've had this evening be memorialized so everybody understands what's
changes are
being,
coming.
what's being said, because what Phil and Nancy are referring to are agreements that the developer made with the city of Fort Myers to take care of that area, starting with the monuments on the corner of Colonial and Tree Line Boulevard. Anyway, my motion is to stay with version A, and I'd love a second.
I'll second this for discussion, so, and I'll actually start the discussion. My concern with going with version B is that there's still a lot of things that we need clarification on. There's so much gray, fuzzy stuff in version B that I think we'll be getting ourselves into a lot of trouble if we try and, at the last minute before we send this off to the county, try and make changes like this. That's my opinion.
I have no problem going with version B, and in fact encourage going to version B as it is fair and reasonable. The percentages have been presented by Russ. We know them ourselves. We've been subsidizing our utility rate customers wrongly. I have no problem with dropping the issue of the Pelican Preserve commercial. Like I say, I don't have a dog in that fight. I could care less. But the 57 or 59, 27, 14 is documented to the hilt and has been. Totally opposed to staying with version A another year.
Our input on that kind of is, and all this has been, we've been having these discussions the past just few days, so. Version B was presented. That's Kathy.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Mrs. Flaherty.
Hello, Mrs. Feinberg. How are you?
We're finished. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Because I just got the text message in,
Okay.
elderly apartment building.
Okay, I'm first gonna ask, for a motion for Mrs. Flaherty to join the conversation, be allowed to vote by phone.
And finding that there are exceptional circumstances to allow her to fully participate.
What you talking about, text message?
I assume,
The vote was coming up. She said we're gonna have a voter discussion on this, she wanted to be included.
And I believe, did you guys get handouts as well from her?
I
Yes.
gotta,
Yes.
yeah, I got it. So,
I'll move that Mrs. Flaherty be allowed to participate and vote at the balance of the meeting.
because of special circumstances.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to allow Mrs. Flaherty to join the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're on board, Mrs. Flaherty. Now, Michael Kraft was about to make a statement, so.
So kind of our staff recommendation with all these things that have been popping up the past 2 days as we've discussed further, there is absolute justification for the change in the allocations, everything like that. We don't see any issues with that. It's just, however, we're thinking, since this assessment methodology is still a work in progress, where Russ says 80 to 90%, but there's all these little things that we're kind of finding, that it would make more sense to just accept it in whole instead of implementing maybe pieces at a time.
That's what we said 2 years ago, that's what we said last year.
Yeah.
We've kicked the can down the road long enough.
And I understand your point on that, but my concern is that we make changes, and then when we get the final assessment methodology, then we find that what we changed is wrong and we need to change it again. And I'd rather do it all at once, know what all the figures are,
The
what all the
assessment
parcels
methodology,
are.
Margaret, has nothing to do with the percentage that we're talking about. Russ has already ran those calculations off and has basis two ways, not only on the land acreage, but on the ERU basis. It is what it is. It's very factual. All those other things of changing the methodology relative to trip generation, admin, parks rep, and stormwater, that's a totally separate issue, totally separate issue.
Kathy, just so you're aware, there's a motion on the table to go ahead and move forward with version A of the assessment chart
Of the budget.
of the budget.
Okay.
Which is the same as last year. or this year.
Right, that's making.
Right, without the new methodology, right?
That's correct.
And without the new allocation.
Without the
of
new
the,
allocation.
Version B doesn't have the new methodology in it either.
And
Let's get
Kathy
that
did
clear,
meet
it does
with us
not
and
have the new
It's
methodology.
the allocation.
It's the
Yeah, it's no change of allocation. It remains 2010-70. Version B would be 27-14-59. And the motion was made and seconded to move forward with version A,
2714.
with no changes in allocation.
All right. Margaret, how about the methodology? Are you working on that?
The methodology, no. That will
No.
be coming up,
It's being deferred.
that's being deferred.
Okay, good, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you're not voting on that at all today?
No,
Okay.
just this is the version A or B of the budget.
Okay. So we're voting on, we made a motion to vote on A, is correct?
Yes, that's the motion, to move forward
Okay.
with version A. Did you want to make any comments on that?
No, I read the whole thing, I looked them both over.
Okay.
And and my staff can tell you, I talked to him
Yeah.
about both of them already.
Okay. Mr. Banks?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike, I've been a supporter of Russ's work, because I think we need to have, everything we do kind of based on fact and the data. My only problem with version B at this point is, one,
it's a significant increase in some areas, and two, I really feel like I want to see the rest of Russ's work to see how it all kind of works in conjunction with one another, so we have a full story. I mean, even if we all agree that Russ's methodology is accurate and, you know, take out any historical conversation around what Pelican should do and what they shouldn't do and all that kind of stuff, that's still a significant increase, and there's a change management component that I think would need to be addressed. I'm not comfortable with making a decision to increase now, but it doesn't say that I wouldn't be
Staff is
comfortable in the future.
recommending also this change. Staff agrees with these numbers. They created, and staff came up with the 59%. That's why I say it's not only Russ, it's staff has done this. We're ignoring what staff is
Yeah,
telling us.
and we're not arguing the numbers at all. I mean, that's how he came up with that is a very good basis. Our only thing was if you change it, we were afraid maybe some people to the public eye might think that we are already implementing part of the assessment methodology. They may not understand this change, this allocation, things like that. That's kind of.
Well, but don't you, here's my question to staff. And if the numbers are the numbers, then there's a baseline, if we can circle back to, you know, what we would consider, you know, the way it should be. The impact, just from the numbers, I mean, that's 134% increase. Is that, what kind of kickback?
Okay, we wouldn't be
We're not doing that.
accepting that. The only change that we would be accepting is what we did for this
It's just a
allocation
percentage
change.
shift.
Is what staff did, was staff came up with how much should be charged to enterprise, because currently it's 70%. I went and I took all the staff time, how it's allocated to each fund, each org. I weighted it by their salary, and I came up with 59% of staff time and staff expenses go to the utility fund. So then what Russ did was said, 59% goes to the enterprise fund, 41% is left. He was coming up with a way to divide it. It just so happened that both, I think, the acreage and the EAUs of Pelican, relevant to the district as a whole, was approximately pretty close to a third. So he divided our 41% and a third, and that's the 14%.
You can go back to the prior slide, Stephen, I think, because that has, so we get this, there we go. And we just go to the bottom
Okay,
line.
yeah, all right.
I think, is that,
You're just.
Yes, it would just be the second row. That, I mean, that's how you want to do it.
Okay, you're saying that these relatively small changes are gonna result in 134% increase?
No.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
that's
figure out. We're
what-
making a
that's
big
what
decision. I don't know if we all
it
fully
No,
understand.
that was-
Two separate things.
For
Yeah, separate
clarification,
things.
for
Two separate
clarification,
things.
the increase in the commercial, the 134%, was premised upon going to 100%
Oh,
of the
that.
dollars as
Yeah,
opposed
okay.
to 44%.
And we're dropping.
Coupled with the administrative expense allocation adjustment. We don't have a number for,
We would have to sit here and calculate it.
for that,
the
if it's
change.
just to be the administrative expense
Push
allocation
forward.
change.
It's another thing that we don't.
We don't have that.
You want us to vote on a.
Steve can crunch that.
On a budget, you don't have the final numbers for us? Is that what
Steve,
you're
Well,
saying?
we do that just about every year. You accept the budget with changes. We did it last year with stormwater management plan, things like that. We would essentially have to see the change in the EAU. It would lower the assessment for the 001, it would slightly raise 002. And we would have to come up with that
So-
change in 002.
You're saying this slide right here, ignore it, because these changes aren't going to go into effect.
Correct, I think that's,
What we need is the
Those
version
numbers-
C that takes out the commercial. That's the deal, that's what they're saying.
All you need to do
Well, we
is
can't,
take this
you may be
budget
right, but we can't ignore the commercials. The commercial is gonna go up by a big number.
No, we're not going that way.
It's not gonna change
We're going
much.
with the version C, technically,
Yeah.
that is the same as B on here, except the component of the commercial going up isn't gonna happen. We're not gonna do that.
Excuse me,
Yes, Ms. Flaherty?
I'm sorry, did you get a new version?
No,
Okay.
it's a nebulous version.
Steve, can you run the number?
Yeah, I can do
I was gonna
it.
say, this isn't that hard to run.
It's just changing those percentages.
And Steve, I guess when you do that too, for clarification,
It's 20,000
the idea
more
would.
To you guys.
for us, and 20,000 less, 20,000 more in 002, and 20,000 less in 001.
Yeah, and-
That's,
and
that's
Steve-
where you are.
And Stephen, clarify also that if we go with, if the recommendation is just to change the allocation to the new percentage
Right.
on the other screen.
That makes
That
sense.
the EAU count does not change from what's in the budget.
Correct.
That's correct.
Neither in Pelican or in the Gateway proper, the EAUs do not change. It's merely, if we have $100 per EAU, we're allocating $59 to enterprise,
Correct.
as
27
opposed
to the other
to
and
70 to enterprise now.
Right.
See, that makes more sense.
That makes
to
more
me.
sense. Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense.
And Philly, you said the overall impact to Pelican going to that 14% is 20,000.
It's about 20,000, it goes from
Yeah.
99 something to 120, I think.
Spread over
If
3,000.
if you do the, yeah, yeah. So,
So does that change your motion, Bill?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it's the right thing.
If we had it in writing, understandable, I could probably be convinced to change it, but not with all of this verbal business going on, that we're, you ignore this and ignore that and change this, and version C. I hate this, I hate this.
Stephen, go ahead.
And I'm gonna agree with Mr. Guy that, you know, because the number I just asked, if there was a version C that I didn't get, and if you don't have it in writing, it's all hearsay as far as I'm concerned.
All we're doing in the final analysis is voting on the high water mark at night. If the staff is able to verify what they're telling us verbally and convince us, we can include those in budget adjustments as we go along. But at this
Do we need to
point in
approve
time-
that?
Yeah, the only difference is that if the number gets raised in Pelican Preserve, then that's different. yeah.
Then it's a problem.
That's a problem.
I will be frank with you, we do not plan to keep the O&M number, or the HOA agreement number where it is. We are planning to drop it. So it wouldn't go up.
It would go up for purpose of our notice right now, based on our budget number.
Oh, yeah.
But
And ultimately, if the association decides
Noise going on.
that the reimbursement amount will be less, then we'll find that out in August
Yeah, right.
by the board meeting. But we still have to send out the high number.
Is this on a flash drive, or can you change it in
And
the PowerPoint?
I just did.
Oh, you did?
Jeez.
Okay.
You put a date on it?
Perfect. So now version B is version D.
Wait, yeah,
Version B just.
Mr. Bloom, can you put a date on it, Steve, and watermark it, please?
So
Kathleen, do you have your phone with you?
You're
Well,
one.
the thing is it's still got.
You still got the 134,
percentage,
that's
yeah.
the confusing deal, that's no longer in there. That doesn't mean anything.
Oh, yes, you just look at you go on the right-hand column for.
More than I go, just look at the assessment.
Yes.
Let's just vote on the measure and go on to the high level, high water mark, understanding that we're gonna be discussing this again in